Law in Orlando, and thanks as always for joining me, Jeremy.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Fred.
We got a lot to talk about tonight. We heard what President Trump had to say from the Rose Garden a little bit earlier, from the White House a little bit earlier, about mobilizing U.S. military forces. That would, tell me if I'm wrong, wouldn't that involve the Insurrection Act, which was like 213 years old in order to do that?
I don't think he has any idea about what he's talking about, quite frankly. The U.S. president can only mobilize U.S. forces for operations in foreign territories and or on federal lands. What he's trying to do is coerce America's governors to do what he wants them to do, because of course he knows the local condition far better than they do. And what he wants to do is see some enormous use of force to mute these protesters, and it's simply not going to happen. And if he does deploy them unlawfully, then it's up to Congress and the judicial branch to put a check on them. He has 2 million soldiers at his disposal, and if he begins to use them unlawfully, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the military have to tell him no, quite frankly, because they know the Constitution better than the president. So this is outrageous. He also, if you listen carefully, used a phrase referring to the Second Amendment, which was a type of dog whistle almost to armed militias. And that really concerns me, because he continues to dog whistle and give cover to organizations that have a history of violent white extremism to take actions. And these are some of the outsiders we're seeing come in who are actually shooting at black people. And so he's not discussing that narrative. He's more concerned with Antifa.
Well, and what people really want and are looking for right now is leadership. You have chaos because there doesn't seem to be any cohesive marching orders to go by. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, well, the president lacks the emotional intelligence and the aptitude to understand the gravity of the moment. And what he's not realizing, this is not even just a domestic moment, but this is an international moment. The whole world is looking. He's been condemned by the United Nations. Police brutality has been condemned by the United Nations. There are people protesting in Paris and Copenhagen and Rio de Janeiro and Milan and Toronto and Vancouver and Mexico City and Lagos and London and Krakow, Poland, Perth, Berlin, Auckland, South Africa, even Syria, where they're fighting a war. There are people protesting against the killing of George Floyd and this president. And so he's on the wrong channel. He's a dangerous man.